I'm going to take each of the 4 areas and talk about some things that I think can be done here based on, again, my experience and research and what I see happening and have helped to happen in other countries. Let's look at the infrastructure first. Now, one thing I think needs to be set up is that some agency, some person, I don't care who's going to monitor these metrics that I outlined, these metrics of ease of business formation, these metrics of ease of doing business, these metrics of direct foreign investment. I think that's essential because the policies need to be all together for the government that are going to work towards the betterment of those metrics, which means it's going to be for the betterment of entrepreneurship. Number 2, I think we need to provide a strong system for creating successful new enterprises. Countries have now learned that these things called incubators, if tied to something that can help, are great ways to incubate or hatch companies. The problem is, I think we've had so much focus on incubators that a new thing has just started, and I love this, is the accelerators. See, there's companies out there that are small. They need help in growing. These become the real employers. And we need to create gazelle-like companies, and accelerator kinds of instances can help do that. You start here at 0. You have nothing. You have no history. You have no name. You have nothing. Then what do? Do you go way positive? No, you go negative. And that's why you got to get up the revenue curve as fast as you can. You go negative and negative and negative and boom. Most of the time, and many companies never make it out of negativity, which means they what? They're no longer in existence. So once you hit this great point, this super point called positive cash flow, that means the first time in the history of your company, revenues are greater than costs. We've been a one-person operation. Then we need to grow our companies, turn a profit, and then we accelerate. And most companies people don't know how to grow their company. Number 3, I think we need to establish an overall pro-entrepreneurship, pro-venture create atmosphere, which is done by some of these actions, which is done by media releases, which is done by people knowing that the government is behind this entrepreneurship. We need to be able to help these small companies export. And whether we set up an export trading company like we did in Ireland in 1984, or whatever we do, that needs to happen. And help small companies, SMEs, and all sizes, and entrepreneurs develop partners in other countries. It really is important to have people encouraged to be creative, to think outside the box, to come up with new ideas. Number 2, for the idea part of this, I think we need to establish some kind of grant program to help people, particularly with those ideas that need a little more development, that they can go to get a grant. I've seen this work so many times. It's a modification of probably only one of the few government programs I'm really behind in the United States, and that is our SBIR program. This is the smartest program ever devised. What they do is, in certain sectors that has been determined to be the technology essence of the country, that has a strong possibility of growing, that you can have a real strong industry base in that, they grant awards for that inventor to not only develop the idea, but then the market plan to take it to the market. And so I think with that, one needs to understand, what do we have here in South Africa? What's our technological expertise? Where are the courses in entrepreneurship? Where are the training programs? So this whole thing of getting research to the marketplace, getting creativity, celebrating people, I think is very important, and be able to fund those ideas that make sense. Number 3 is the money, the finance. I think there's one thing I really hope you establish. I really, really believe in this, is what I call a joint private sector government fund to fund startup ventures. And I want the government to give a tax incentive to the private wealthier individuals to contribute to this fund, and then I want to match it dollar for dollar, and then they have a outside the government decision group, a private sector decision group that makes the decisions to fund this venture. I think that would have so much impact in South Africa. Number 2, one of the newest things that's happened in the venture capital industry is what we call a university venture fund. What universities have done is set up funds of money to fund their students, their faculty, their alumni, and their staff on ideas that make sense. Why not invest in your own technology, in your own people? I've set up 2 of these at 2 universities. Case Western Reserve University, we call it Jumpstart. It returned to our investors 26.5%. I started one at another little university. I was a part of the University of Tulsa, which you've never heard of. That returned 18.7%. This is something that has a return on an investment and yet creates companies in the university. Go to the Stanford Research Venture Fund. Google it. Unbelievable what that has done. That has absolutely transformed and made Silicon Valley. Number 3, I think we need to make sure we can provide small and medium-sized enterprises and entrepreneurs grants, if you need to, for employment, for locating in areas that may not be most desirable, for selling internationally, whatever we need to do to stimulate that. Grants don't have to be large. We've learned a lot from this, called the smaller loans. Most of those are all paid back, so we can do a lot with very little money. Number 4, I think we need to make sure that entrepreneurs, regardless of race, can access banks and banks' loans, like we talked about. And if they can't get the money, then we should do some kind of guaranteed loan program to help them get started. And number 5, I think we need to establish here, probably the first ever in a developing economy, an angel network. Every country, everywhere in the world has people of means, people of wealth. Bringing those people together so many times a year to fund startup ventures is just very important. We have 4 companies that present to us in 12 minutes. And that's what most angel groups, 12-minute presentation, 10-minute answer, and then we tie into the university by having a group of student teams do the first due diligence presentation after they get done. So the students learn about valuation and due diligence as well. Germany has them, Ireland has them, Austria has them, China has them, and hopefully I'll soon see South Africa on that list. Finally, the entrepreneur themselves. How do we help people become the stature and the success of our honored guest here? I really believe education plays a role in this. We need to encourage universities to have various classes in entrepreneurship of all different subject matters. Number 2, we need to establish some very unique programs. I think one of the bad things about universities is we're sort of walled silos. It's time for the walls to go. And one way for these walls to go is to create cross-university programs. I love these. At Case Western Reserve University. Now, Thunderbird is a freestanding business school, so we don't have any outside science. I have a Master's of Science and Entrepreneurship with the departments of Physics, Chemistry, Statistics, Biology, and Mathematics. There's people that want to learn a little more about their discipline, don't want to get a PhD, but know that a Master's in Physics doesn't do much. You throw in entrepreneurship, a little business training, it does a lot. Went to the engineering school. I said, how about a Master's of Engineering Entrepreneurship? We got it. The first one ever in the United States. So we need to establish these unique programs that can cross over between disciplines in the university. Number 2, we need to have training programs. And I think the training programs can actually start as low as the high school level. You got to have a training program in creating a business plan. You got to have a training program in how to start a business. You got to have a training program in how to finance your business. You got to have a training program in how to grow your business. So all these functional business areas we've talked about need to have these short training programs. And they need to be delivered at times entrepreneurs can do it. They're not going to sit there for 3 straight days. Their business will fail. They got to be delivered in modules at times that make sense for them. Now, it's just recognizing people that are willing to do those things, take the risks that the doctor did, and persevere and do it. And I think that's so important. And finally, and the thing I mentioned before, my last comment on this, I really believe in mentor programs. And I don't know whether you want to do that in a city basis or in an area basis or on a nationwide basis. I think if you had an entrepreneurship mentor program with people on it, the entrepreneurs that are willing to take a few hours every other week to talk to and help other entrepreneurs, you're going to have an environment that's going to be unbelievable.